Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. So in this video I'm going to be talking about some of my first time watches of recent times over the last month or so, and I think there's about 45 titles here. Bit of a mixed bag. Some of these movies are, some of them are well known that I just haven't got round to, sort of throwaway movies. They're not like classics or anything like that. Some of them are TV movies. Some of them, are, in my opinion, are absolutely extremely underrated films. And yeah, just like I said, a mixed bag of genres here. So I'm gonna get into it and talk about the first few. So first up, we've got a TV movie from the early 90s that had just an absolutely amazing cast. Phil Collins, Richard Gere, Angelica Houston, Steve Martin, Ian McKellen, and Matthew Modine, and that is The Band Played On. So this was kind of like an early 90s movie about the AIDS epidemic that broke out during the 80s, and yeah, it was kind of just a fascinating movie. Well acted, very, very low budget, obviously, because it's a TV movie, but I really enjoyed this one, so that's And The Band Played On. Next up, we've got a movie that I've kind of got a bit of nostalgia for this movie. I remember seeing bits and bobs of it on TV when I was younger, and I remember seeing that ending as well, but I never saw the movie in full up until now, and it is a movie called The Killing Secret. So this is a really cool TV movie, kind of about this class of students who are about to graduate, and one of the boys is kind of, he's a scumbag in this movie. He's dating two girls at the same time, and one of them tells him that she's pregnant, and he just does not warm to the idea at all, and you can kind of guess where it's going. But yeah, I just remember the ending of this movie really sticking with me, and it stayed with me for years and years, and I was glad to finally get a copy of this and rewatch it, because it's not an easy movie to get hold of. But yeah, it's a good movie. It's a good little suspenseful thriller that I just enjoyed for a TV movie. So that's The Killing Secret. Next up, I watched a video on YouTube, kind of about movies about real true crime. So I wanted to sort of delve into some more movies, sort of touching on that topic. So the first one I've got is a movie with Richard Crenna, Dennis Farina, and Billy Zane, and it is The Case of the Hillside Stranglers. This is a Spanish edition. I think this was the only way I could get hold of it, but yeah, this was a really, really cool movie. Again, based on true events about these two cousins who kind of posed as brothers, and they were impersonating police officers and kidnapping and murdering women. Played by Dennis Farina and Billy Zane in this movie. The pair of them are just absolutely creepy as hell, and Richard Crenna's like the detective on the case. But yeah, it's a really, really good movie. Really enjoyed it. Some of the scenes in this, yeah, are quite really like messed up and disturbing, but it's good for a TV movie anyway. So that's The Case of the Hillside Stranglers. Next up, I watched sort of two TV movies with Farah Forster, and the first one we've got is The Burning Bed. So this was about sort of Farah Forster in this sort of, basically this domestic abuse relationship, and it's got some really, really good acting in it, but yeah, I just thought it was pretty good. So that's The Burning Bed. And next up, again with Farah Forster, we have Small Sacrifices. So this was about sort of Farah Forster's character, who kind of was sort of attempting to murder some of her children in this movie. But yeah, it goes, it tells the story really well, but it just, the way she kind of just like tries to get out of it, and sort of the measures that she goes to, it was kind of just messed up. But it was a good, really good movie. But sadly, the quality on this is not great because it is a TV movie. It's recorded from TV. It didn't actually get a physical, an official release. But yeah, it's a good, solid movie nonetheless. Same can be said for this next one. So we have A Cry for Help, the Tracy Thurman story. Yeah, this again was another domestic abuse movie based on a real actual event, and there's a scene in this movie about halfway through the movie where the domestic abuse actually happens, and it happens outside. There's a crowd. The police are just absolutely useless. They just stand by and watch it happen, and it's just absolutely infuriating. But my God, is it brutal. It is just really, really upsetting. And And yeah, again, it's not like the best quality because it's taken straight away from TV. It even has like the adverts of what's coming up later on that evening. But it's a really good movie and it's not one to turn your nose up at. So that is Cry for Help, the Tracy Thurman story. Next up, we've got kind of some more mainstream movies here now. This is a movie directed by Richard Donner that I hadn't seen before. Yeah, enjoyed it. It was Timeline. I say I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the start of this movie. Really, really got into it. But when the actual time travel element of the movie kicked in, I was a little disappointed. Left a little bit to be desired, in my opinion. But I really enjoyed the opening to this movie. So that's Timeline. Next up, we've got a movie that it came up on one of the streams that we do, starring Sharon Stone, William Baldwin, and that is Sliver. This was kind of like a cool erotic thriller that was pretty enjoyable and pretty entertaining, to be honest. The movie looked good, and yeah, just enjoyed this one. So that's Sliver. Next up was a movie that I'd heard some terrible, terrible things about, but I was like, you know what, I'll decide to give it a go. And surprisingly, I quite enjoyed it. It's a movie with Daryl Hannah, and it's called The Job. Yeah, she kind of just plays this hit woman. It's got some really cool characters in it that I enjoyed following. And yeah, it was just a fun little movie, kind of just 90 minutes, a waste of time if you just want to, if you've got time to kill. This was a fun movie. I enjoyed it for what it was. Next up, we've got a movie that I just finished watching today, actually, and it's got absolute stellar cast. Alec Baldwin, Philip Seymour Hoffman, Sarah Jessica Parker, Julia Stiles, and it is State and Maine. William H. Macy's in this as well. So this was a fun movie, sort of about this filmmaking crew, and they come to this little town, and they think it's like it's ideal setting for their movie. And just some weird things happen in this film. It's not a very straightforward plot, but I enjoyed it for what it was. It was a lot of fun, so that's State and Maine. Next up, we've got a movie from the early 80s. This was kind of like, came out, you know, on the heels of movies like Porky's, and although kind of a little bit before Revenge of the Nerds. It is My Tutor. So this kind of follows this guy who's failing one class at his school, and his dad's very much like got his heart set on where he wants his son to be, go applying for this university. And he says, right, you've either got to attend this summer school, or you're pretty much going to lose everything. So he has to attend this summer school, and obviously he ends up having this raunchy relationship with his tutor. Never be made today, this movie, but yeah, it was a lot of fun. That opening was just hysterical, though. So yeah, that's My Tutor. Next up, we've got another movie here that I'd never seen before. I'd heard of it, but never seen it. Robert De Niro, Uma Thurman, Bill Murray, and that is Mad Dog and Glory. Really enjoyed this one. This is kind of one of these movies where I just felt like I'd seen it all before, even before going into it. I was very, very judgmental about it, but it wasn't. It was a nice surprise. It was great to see Bill Murray kind of play the villain in a movie. But yeah, really, really enjoyed this one. So that's Mad Dog and Glory. Next up, really underrated movie in my opinion, this with Sharon Stone, and it is Last Dance. Yeah, really good sort of crime drama about this woman who's on death row, and this lawyer is kind of doing everything he can to try and piece together the fact that this woman doesn't deserve the death penalty. Really, really enjoyed this one. Really solid film in my opinion. Really enjoyed it. So that's Last Dance. Next up, we've got a film with James McAvoy. I saw the trailer for this and I was like, yeah, you know what? It looks pretty good. I'll check that out. And yeah, what a film it was. It's I'm Dancing. I'm Inside, I'm Dancing. But yeah, a bit of a tongue twister for me there. But yeah, really, really fun film. The ending to this is really heartbreaking as well. But yeah, I recommend this one if you've not seen it. Great British movie. So that's Inside, I'm Dancing. I recently watched the American Pie movies. I watched those movies a couple of times a year. And, you know, I said to myself, you know what? I'd love to see more films with Sean William Scott. Because I just think he's a really fun comedic actor. And this was a movie that sort of showed off his more sort of serious acting abilities, in my opinion. I enjoyed this one. It was a fun film, and it is stark raving mad. Again, like I said, Sean William Scott. So this was kind of came out at the same time as American Pie 2. It sort of follows him kind of sort of running this nightclub. Lou Diamond Phillips is also in this movie as well. He's a very underrated actor in my opinion. But yeah, it was this great little crime adventure that I just really enjoyed in this nightclub setting. Really, really fun movie. Really enjoyed it. So that's stark raving mad. Next up, I watched a movie with Jodie Foster and Diane Wiest, and I think this was directed by Jodie Foster as well. Little Man Tate. I remember seeing this on TV when I was younger, not in full, just bits and bobs of it. It's all about this child prodigy. He's meant to be like a genius. Really enjoyed it. I only recognised it because it was kind of like the kid from Jumanji. But yeah, it was a good movie. Enjoyed it for what it was. Next up, I watched a movie directed by Tom Holland, who absolutely made my favourite vampire film of all time. Kickstarted the Child's Play series of movies. And this was one, again, with a very underrated actor, Timothy Hutton. And it is The Temp. Really enjoyed this one. High executive worker who sort of has this temp secretary working for him. Faye Dunaway was great as his boss in this movie as well. But yeah, really, really creepy movie. Really enjoyed it. And I've been watching episodes of the A-Team as well, and it was great to see Dwight Schultz in this movie. Famously played Murdoch. Really enjoyed this film. Really thought it was good and underrated. So that's a Temp. Next up, I watched a movie with Gerard Depardieu and Harvey Keitel. It was a good little mobster movie, this. Crim Spree. Really, really fun. Really, really creative characters. Absolutely enjoyed this movie. Yeah, if you love like your mob comedy movies, it's definitely one to check out. So that's Crim Spree. Next up, I watched a couple of 70s movies, early 80s movies, Warren Beatty, and that is TheParallax View. Yeah, really enjoyed this one. Thought it was a great suspenseful crime thriller, sort of similar to some of the other ones I've got, but yeah, really enjoyed this one. Probably one of my favourite Warren Beatty movies, to be honest. Next up, we have Matt Dillon in Over the Edge. This was a great film. Really enjoyed this, about these rebellious kids who kind of sort of overthrow the police. Really, really enjoyed it. Just thought it was a great, great little rebellious movie. A lot of fun. So that's Over the Edge. Elliot Gould, for me, just absolutely killed it in this next movie, and that is The Long Goodbye. It's a bit of a weird film, a bit difficult to explain the plot, but what a performance from him in this film. Just, I absolutely love the scenes in this movie where he gets arrested and he's so awkward and difficult for the police. Yeah, really, really enjoyed it. It's a weird film, but yeah, really, really dug this one. So that's The Long Goodbye. And speaking as well of Gerard Depardieu, I also watched this movie he was in. Really enjoyed this one as well, and that is Going Places. So him and this other actor, they kind of play these two sort of absolute troublemakers. They just do some really, really uncomfortable stuff in this movie, but again, it's one that I really enjoyed for different reasons. If you've not seen this, highly recommend it if you like those sort of gritty, sort of foreign 70s movies. So that's Going Places. And next up, this was kind of a bigger movie from the 70s. Max von Sydow and Robert Redford, Faye Dunaway as well. 3 Days on the Condor. Yeah, some of the stuff in this movie was just absolutely brutal. So Robert Redford's lucky to escape in one scene with his life. He's just kind of in the right place at the right time, and all his workers and his officers get absolutely massacred in this film. It's just brutal. But yeah, really, really enjoyed it. Really good, solid sort of spy espionage movie. So that's 3 Days on the Condor. Next up, I watched a movie which was kind of brought to my attention from Bumper over at Bumper's Movies. I'm not too sure if he's seen this movie, but he mentioned it with Anthony Michael Hall, and I picked it up on eBay, and that is Out of Bounds. So very much coming out at the sort of the height of the Brat Pack era. Movies like this and Blue City, and another movie I'm going to get to after this one where the Brat Pack kind of just did these sort of weird little serious crime dramas, and this was good. I enjoyed this, really good, even though the villain in this movie reminded me of Lee Evans. It was a good movie, really, really enjoyed it. Sort of on the run type of movie, set in the 80s, so that's Out of Bounds. And the other one I've got, which kind of like sort of had a Brat Pack cast to it, Emilio Estevez and Demi Moore, directed by Emilio Estevez as well, and that is Wisdom. Very much an 80s and sort of inspired Bonnie and Clyde, had that vibe to it. Really, really enjoyed it. Demi Moore was just absolutely sort of gorgeous in this movie, as she was kind of when she was younger. But yeah, really, really good film. Really, really enjoyed it. So that's Wisdom. Next up, we've got a sort of sex teen comedy from the 90s. There's a few of those I'm going to get to because I absolutely been loving my early 2000s and late 90s comedies. I really, really love, I'm getting into that genre at the minute. But this one, I think this was from the early to mid 90s. Very, very much reminded me a little bit of Some Kind of Wonderful, this film. And it's Jennifer Love Hewitt in Trojan War. Yeah, enjoyed it. It's called about this guy who he's best friends with like Jennifer Love Hewitt, and he's like obsessed with this other girl. He's getting this big chance to sleep with her off of this like high school party, but obviously he doesn't have protection and he's trying to like find some. That is basically the plot of the movie. It's daft, it's silly, but you can kind of see where it's going if you've ever seen Some Kind of Wonderful. But enjoyed it for what it was. It was fun. It was a harmless laugh. So yeah, that's Trojan War. Next up, again, a really, really underrated movie. I'd never heard of this one before. Reese Witherspoon and Paul Rudd, and that is Overnight Delivery. Yeah, if you've ever seen the movie Road Trip, this was kind of cut from the same cloth in terms of its plot. Sort of this guy who emails something to his girlfriend that he doesn't really want to, and he has to go and try and intercept the parcel. Reese Witherspoon's obviously the girl who goes along for the ride in this one, and you can kind of see where it's going. I absolutely thought Larry Drake was hilarious in this movie as the postman. I thought he was absolutely fantastic. But yeah, really, really good, underrated movie. A lot of fun, a lot of laughs. So that's Overnight Delivery. Next up, I watched a movie that has never actually had an official UK release. I think this movie still to this day is banned in the UK. And it is Mikey. So yeah, going into a bit of the backstory about this kind of never got a release because of the James Bulger killing in the early 90s. And after watching this movie, I can completely see why. It's very uncomfortable at times, this film. It's upsetting. It obviously follows this young lad who is just evil to the core. He goes from foster family to foster family, causing absolute havoc. But it's just, yeah, I get why it was banned here in the UK. It's not an amazing film. It's not perfect by any means. The last sort of act of this movie went full slasher for me. It was just took the tropes from a horror film. Reminded me very, very much of Sleepaway Camp 2 and Happy Birthday to Me, if you've ever seen those films. Yeah, I could see why it had that effect to not be released here in the UK. But I still enjoyed the film. I thought it was well made enough for me. And yeah, it was just an all-round good little horror film. So that's Mikey. Next up, I watched sort of another horror film from the early 70s, and that is Bad Ronald. So yeah, this had a good premise to it. It's just this very unhealthy relationship between Ronald and his mother, and they live in this house, and yeah, hence the title Bad Ronald. Ronald does something very, very wrong in this film. Very, very bad. And his mum says, right, you're going to have to sort of, till things die down, you're going to have to sort of live in the crawl space. We'll set it up so it looks like a false wall in case the police come knocking. And that's exactly what they do. His mum passes away and a new family moves into the house, and he's sort of stuck living in this crawl space, and he ends up becoming obsessed with, I think, one of the daughters. Really, really creepy movie, really well done. The only thing is this DVD was borderline unwatchable. It was terrible. but I think it was kind of like the only way I could watch the film. But really, really enjoyed what it was going for. So that's Bad Ronald. Moving into some more of the sort of family-friendly movies now. Snow Day, Chevy Chase. This was a fun little Nickelodeon movie, throwaway film. I remember seeing bits and bobs again on TV when I was younger, and yeah, it was what it was. It was a daft little family movie, so that's Snow Day. Same as well can be said for this next one, Clock Stoppers. Yeah, had some fun effects in it with the sort of the time stopping aspect to it. Great to see Michael Biehn in here as the villain as well. Really enjoyed it for what it was. Just a fun little movie, throwaway film. So that's Clock Stoppers. Next up, I watched with Amanda Bynes and Channing Tatum. She's the Man. Had never seen this before. Yeah, has the sort of liar reveal cliche we get in these types of movies, but yeah, it was fun. I enjoyed it. It was entertaining enough for me, so that's She's the Man. Next up, we have Sorority Boys. Yeah, this was a weird little movie, early 2000s comedy that I enjoyed. Sort of about these three guys who dress up as women, sort of get into this college fraternity, whatever it is. Would never be made today, but yeah, it was a lot of fun for what it was. I had a laugh with it. And speaking of Amanda Bynes, I also watched this one as well. Sort of wanted to check out more Paul Giamatti movies. I think because of all the buzz he's been getting for The Holdovers. I watched Big Fat Liar. Definitely not his finest hour, but you can tell Giamatti's having a lot of fun in the role. Enjoyed the movie. It was, one of these family-friendly little throwaway films, and I just wanted to check it out, so that's Big Fat Liar. Yeah, next up we have the absolutely stunning Hayden Panettiere in I Love You, Beth Cooper. This was, again, a lot of fun, sort of following these two guys who, one of them's absolutely in love with Hayden Panettiere's character, and he kind of just gets the time to sort of spend with her in this film. It's a lot of fun. Her boyfriend's just kind of like always on the trail of these two guys. It's over the top. It's daft, but I really, really enjoyed it. I liked Alan Ruck in this film as well, as sort of the main lad's dad. But yeah, it was a fun throwaway comedy. Enjoyed it for what it was. I Love You, Beth Cooper. Next up, we have Dave Chappelle in Half Baked. This was a fun stoner comedy, if there ever was one. Really enjoyed it. It knows what it is. It knows what it's doing. It's not reinventing the wheel. It's just daft stoner humour. Yeah, little fun movie, so that's Half Baked. Next up, we've got a movie with David Schwimmer and Jason Lee, and that is Kissing a Fool. So this was a weird movie. Not to look at, but just like the premise of it was just bizarre. Sort of these two best friends. One of them sort of is engaged, but he says to his friend, I want you to prove that she's faithful, so try and sort of hit on her and see if she'd sleep with you. It's weird, but yeah, it's fun. I enjoyed the cast in this. I thought the two leads had great chemistry, so that's Kissing a Fool. And again, sort of going through a big run now of these types of comedy movies. She's Out of My League. Yeah, this was a fun film. Again, with the stunning Alice Eve. Yeah, really, really enjoyed this one. Obviously felt this guy who works at an airport. He crosses paths with Alice Eve. And yeah, the two of them hit it off, and everyone just sort of thinks like, why is she hanging out with him? Enjoyed it. It was a fun comedy. So yeah, that's She's Out of My League. There's a scene in that was just absolutely hysterical where parents walk in. If you know, you know. Next up, we've got Ryan Reynolds and Tara Reid in Van Wilder, Party Liaison. Yeah, got to give a shout out to Keith over at Euphoria Pictures who recommended this one. Really enjoyed it. A lot of laughs. That cake / donut scene in that movie was just absolutely stomach churning. It was horrendous. If you've seen the movie, you'll know what I'm on about, but my God, it was sickening. But it was so funny. Really, really enjoyed this one, so that's Van Wilder. Last night, I watched this comedy from the early 2000s, and that is Super Troopers. yeah, this was a fun film, sort of following these cops and what they get up to in their day-to-day job. Some of the dialogue in this movie was just absolutely hysterical. Really, really enjoyed it, particularly in that third act as well. So that's Super Troopers. Next up, we've got, this was a kind of sort of throwaway chick flick that I enjoyed. Kate Hudson, Anne Hathaway, Bride Wars. Sort of follow these two best friends who sort of end up getting engaged to their respective partners, and things just kind of sort of go weary when they kind of realize it becomes a competition, and things just get really, really out of hand. It was nothing great, but I still was entertained. I enjoyed it. It's Bride Wars. Next up, we have David Spade in Joe Dirt. Yeah, this was a fun movie. I couldn't help but like this film. It's far from great, but my God, it was just so likable. I don't know what it was. I just really, really dug the movie. Sort of following Joe, telling his tale about him trying to find his parents. And yeah, I just thought it was a lot of fun. It's Joe Dirt. Next up, this next one, not a great movie either, but again, there was just something very, very likable about it. Jason Lee, Tom Green, Leslie Mann, and that is Stealing Harvard. Yeah, enjoyed this one. Tom Green's a fucking weirdo at the best of times. Yeah, Jason Lee, I think he's always reliable for me whenever he pops up in a movie, but this was a fun comedy. Enjoyed it for what it was. So that's Stealing Harvard. Same again can be said for this next one. Slackers, Jason Schwartzman. Yeah, just a fun college comedy movie. Really enjoyed it. Anyone knows me, I love these types of movies. Really, really do. I think like American Pie is just like the benchmark for me. But yeah, I just find something very, very comforting about these types of movies. So that's Slackers. And the last movie that I've got for this video is, again, speaking of American Pie, Jason Biggs, Dane Cook, Kate Hudson, Alec Baldwin, My Best Friend's Girl. Yeah, really enjoyed this one. Another good comedy. Dane Cook, I've been kind of getting into some of his movies lately. I love movies like Waiting and Employee of the Month. And yeah, I wanted to check this one out too. So that is the final film in this video, My Best Friend's Girl. So yeah, those are, I believe, I want to say it's 45 titles. I did watch a hell of a lot more as well, but these are the ones that I just really, really enjoyed and wanted to talk about. So yeah, gonna leave the video there, guys, and say thanks very much for watching. Stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.